1075 WGCI, the size number one for hip hop and R&B. It's the morning show with the Destin legend Leon Rogers.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful Kendra G.
Hey.
In Chicago, Kyle. And as you can tell, we have a guest on the line right now. Not only is she a political commentator, man, well educated, keeping us versed on all things going on, standing up for the Black community. She's here to share some wisdom with us today, man. Got to give it up for Miss Angela Rye.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you all.
No, it's good to have you here, man. So we know you're here to talk to us a little bit about the Black Census and everything that's going on with that. But let's just start by informing people what the Black Census is for the people that don't know.
Yes, well, unfortunately, Kyle, a lot of folks still don't know, but we're trying to hurry up and get the word out. The Black Census Project was created by Black Futures Lab in 2018. They did the first version of this survey then and used it to create a Black political agenda in 2020. And this process will be no different. We're hoping to speak to a whole lot more Black folks about the issues that are most important to all of us. This is particularly important this year to me. I tried to run with it and own it like it was my own in 2018. I'm really proud of my friend Alicia Garza, who's always doing work for the people. You all will know her as one of the co-creators of the Black Lives Matter hashtag. So she lives by this. This survey was created by Black folks for Black folks so that we could have a safe container to talk about the issues that are most important to us. This is the 50th anniversary year of the National Black Political Convention in Gary, Indiana. Okay. And we have not convened to organize around a political agenda since then as a collective. And so at that time, there were all 50 states were represented. They had 2 delegates from each state. They didn't do everything right, because you all may know, if you watch the Shirley Chisholm documentary, you know that they did not endorse her as their presidential candidate. They endorsed Walter Mondale. Yikes. But what they did do right is they came together around issues and agenda items that were the most important to them. And they ensured that candidates, whether they were white or Black or any other race, were accountable to those agenda items and took a pledge. And so what I hope happens from this, from the work of Black Futures Lab, just like in 2020, their sister organization, Black to the, Black to the Action, I'm messing this up. Black to the Future Action Fund is what I'm trying to say. They created the agenda as a result of that because they're a 501c4 and can be actionable around those items. So long story short, because I know I'm in the weeds and I'm a policy wonk, what I want us all to be aware of is that our voices need to be heard. This is a safe space for us to be able to do that. And this is our time to ensure that we are actually taking our agenda and our lives back into our own hands and doing what's in our collective best interest.
Can you break down the difference between the Black Census and the U.S. Census? Because I might be like, I did the U.S. Census, girl. Don't that count for the Black Census?
No, it doesn't. The U.S. Census is a federal government tool that is used to ensure that we're surveyed and we are proportionally counted in varying areas throughout the country. I am not saying that it's not important. It is very important. The United States Census, you take every 10 years. They use that to determine congressional districts and state legislative districts, how much funding goes to different government projects related to transportation, education, healthcare, all of these systems. And I would tell you that Black folks did ourselves a disservice in the 2020 census by not showing up to be counted. And so even right now, you see the fallout from that, right, in this year's election. When you look at how many congressional seats Republicans have now in contention, the fact that it looks like they're going to take control of the House, of course, as you all know, we're not finished counting. But if they end up with the House, you can thank the United States Census for that and the redrawing of the districts, which is called the redistricting process. So the United States Census, which is a part of an activity under the United States Census Bureau, is an official government survey. When you go back and look at your genealogy records, right? If you all have done any ancestry work, you can see where your folks lived, how many people lived in the house. That's all a function of the United States Census. It's not bad, but it is not the Black Census. What census means in this context is a survey. Right? It is a way for Black folks to be counted and heard on issues that are most important to us. It is a function of the Black Futures Lab in collaboration with a bunch of incredible organizations and media partners like iHeart. So it is not an official government action, but it is something that's very, very important for us to participate in.
I want to piggyback on that, Miss Rod. You know us in the hood, Black folks, we don't trust the government. We don't trust when stuff comes around and we got to fill this out, feel like we keeping tabs on us. How can the Black community benefit from filling out the Black Census survey? Like in layman's term, for my brothers and sisters out there that may not understand all the political jargon, like how do we win by, or how do we get better by filling out this survey? Why should we fill this one out?
Well, I would put it to you like this. One, again, it's not a federal government survey. It is a Black organization-led survey. A number of Black orgs are participating in this, the NAACP, the National Urban League, National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, National Black Justice Coalition, National Action Network. There are so many. So if you don't like three of them, it's one you like, right? And it's because we're all saying we're all Black, we need to be counted. We see what happens when we're not represented. The other thing that I would say, and I say this often when we talk about how to engage the electoral process, people are like, I don't like the system doesn't serve me. I would like to know how the system changes if you don't get involved, right? I would like to know if you're a small business owner, I'm a small business owner. If there's somebody on your team who works for you and they come in and they don't ever have to check in, they don't ever get reviewed, you don't care about their performance, they're just collecting a check saying they're doing work for you, but you don't really know if they're working for you. It's the same thing with our elected officials. We pay them. They work for us. We should be checking on them. You talk about the government keeping tabs. We need to be keeping tabs on them. They're supposed to be working for us. This is a tool in my mind that further extends our political power to understand, oh, I don't just have to name my issues. I can ensure you're working on behalf of these issues. It is a great organizing tool to ensure that in the long run, we're being heard on the issues that count most to us. We're saying reparations. We're saying better funding for education. We're saying fix these damn potholes. We're saying, there are so many things that we need to be heard about. If you don't ever use your voice, except for on what is now failing Twitter, if you never use your voice except for on that, chat and text thread you have with your friends, what are you really organizing around and what are you really changing? So I would say give it a try. It takes 5 minutes.
Yeah. In regards to this election that we're just coming off of, the midterm elections, and you mentioned a second ago that some places are still being counted, and we see a lot of times people feel like, how much does the Black vote, or how important is the Black vote when it comes to percentages of the population, right? If I don't know the exact numbers, but if white people make up 65% of the population and Black people only make up 15% of the population, how can we be in a position of power? You hear people say things of that nature. How important is the Black vote in particular coming off of this midterm election?
Well, I think it's extremely important. Here's the thing that I think is most significant. There are more than 46 million Black folks in the United States. And when you count, if you just do a raw number count about how many of us participated in the election, the numbers are abysmal. I don't just think that responsibility is on us. I don't think it's just on Black folks. I think it is on the respective political parties to reach out to us to ensure that we know an election is coming up, that we're eligible to vote. There are a number of people in my family, in my community, who, because they, committed a felony or they have a felony on their record, they don't know that they may now be eligible to vote, depending on where they are. So I would say that there are so many things that are so important around the vote. But the most important thing is, did you check your registration, right? Do you know when the election day is? Are there early voting days where you can go? Do you know what's on the ballot? Because we don't want you to just show up and you don't know what's going on. Do you know what's on the ballot? Do you know how these issues or these candidates positions impact you? Our political power isn't just in casting our ballot. That is the threshold walking into democracy, right? We have to ensure that we are activated and motivated in a 360 way, 360 degrees. We're active on every side. We filled out the Black Census at blackcensus.org. We've reached out to our state, local, and federal elected officials and told them what our demands are, what we require of them to be able to stay in service. We have voted. We have exercised our franchise, which is the least that we can do. That is what full political power looks like to me. organizing with people who have the same interests that I do. And we're saying we need to be counted. So yeah, your ballots need to be counted. You need to be counted on the Black census. And there are so many other ways to get involved. But I think when we look at this particular election, I'll give one regionally closer to you all in Milwaukee, right? Mandela Barnes has won statewide office before in Milwaukee. He was running for the United States Census against someone who does not represent our best interest, Ron Johnson. Mandela Barnes is 20,000 votes away, I think, from that victory. And when you look at turnout in Black Milwaukee, it would have made the difference. Oh, it would have made the difference threefold, fourfold, fivefold. But our folks didn't show up. And so we have to do a post-mortem on why they didn't show up, who was responsible for reaching them, why weren't they reached, and what was the investment in turnout efforts. Yes, I would like for us to live in a utopia where we could say, our folks show up no matter what, whether you reach out to us or not, we're going to come through. But the reality of it is, if you spend money on the white voters, you need to spend that money on us.
Yeah.
I would love to know how many folks came on to talk to you all about voting and how important it was. Did they make the investment?
Right.
And that's something that they have to deal with too. So there's accountability on our side, but it's not just us.
You know, it's our first time talking to you, but I think I speak for all of us. We want to just give you your flowers. Like, we appreciate you so much. You represent for Black people always. We know when we see your face, like, okay, she's going to give it to them and she's going to say the things that we're thinking. So we just adore you and love you. So with that being said, have you ever thought about running for a political office yourself? No.
No, sis, not a chance. It's so funny. I am my father's child. My dad is an activist that still carries a bullhorn in his trunk. And we can organize people.
Old school.
That's
Old
funny.
school for real, right?
Right.
It might not have no batteries, but he got that bullhorn.
That's funny.
The thing that I know is I'm great at organizing people. I can move people, but you do not want me to be. I would be in so much trouble because I don't have a filter. And there's some things I'd be like, I do not care about this issue. They'd be like, we got to get her out of here. You know,
We will have
so
your
I
back.
thank God for all of my mentors who run for office, who I've worked for. I worked for the Congressional Black Caucus. I worked for Congresswoman Maxine Waters. I worked for Congressman Benny Thompson. My heroes, people that, you know, I would help write talking points for and all of that, but I still am not going to run for office. I'm just not even interested. I want to make some money, Kendra. I don't know about you, but you don't make enough money running for office. So.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Your voice is still powerful as her, and it's probably more powerful in this stance anyways. But I just thought it would be dope because we would definitely come out to vote for Angela Rye.
You hope so. Now, see, that's the other thing. If our folks didn't show up for me, then I'd be ready to cut somebody out. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let me stay on this side.
That's funny.
Ms. Rye, like, I know you have a passion for activism and talking politics and stuff, but how does Angela Rye decompress? Like, how do you get away? Like, what's your bubble where you be like, I don't want to hear about this red shit, this blue shit. I just want to relax and do what does Angela Rye do to decompress from all the political stuff and activism?
You know, there's so many things. I'll tell you, I am so blessed to have a circle of friends who hold me down in so many ways. There's a group of us who are all Black women in media. We are each other's outlet and safe space. My very best friend in the world, we try, I'm just not gonna lie to the people, we try to do a morning devotional practice every day. Sometimes it's a miss, a lot of times we still get it done. The spa, acupuncture, there's a new show that I've been watching on Hulu called Reasonable Doubt that's based off of, it's loosely based, my friend would kill me if I didn't say this, loosely based off of my friend's life, who's also been a mentor to me, Sean Chapman Holly. And I never watch TV, so that's big that I'm watching TV. I love watching basketball, like with my dad growing up. That was a big thing, and I'm home in Seattle now, so we'll definitely be checking out some games. And then a little retail therapy doesn't hurt.
Swipe.
Right.
Man. Oh, God.
Angela, let me ask you this, because this is something that kind of it gets me hot a little bit when I hear people say this. You're registered and represent as a Democrat, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
So when you hear people like, and it wouldn't be a Chicago interview without mentioning Kanye, but when you hear people like Kanye say, you know, the Democrats are people that vote Democrat are basically blind, right? And I'm like, well, there's a lot. For me personally, I never consider myself either. Like, I'm just a person. I'm independent in thought, but a lot of times the things that Republicans say, I can't see myself voting for them. So if I end up voting Democrat, so now I'm blind, or I'm not awakened to what's going on. Like, yeah, McCoon, all this kind of crazy stuff. Like, so I understand that neither party is perfect. Right. But for me, a lot of times, when I hear some of the things that come out the Republicans' mouth, I can't see myself going there. So you, as being a Democrat, and you hear those kind of things, like, what is your stance on that?
Yeah, it's funny because like you, I don't identify as a Democrat. I grew up in Seattle, it's super, super liberal here, and I never heard my parents say they were Democrats. Right. They just voted progressively. And so I actually say I'm a progressive. I don't mind the label, but it just doesn't feel like, you know how when somebody's trying to put you in a bucket and you're like, this doesn't feel like it neatly kind of fits around me.
Yes.
So I think that's it. I think that Black folks in particular have progressive values. We know that a woman shouldn't be told what to do with her body any more than a man should be told they can or cannot have access to Viagra, right? We know that this country owes us something in the form of reparations. We know that our folks who work hard every single day should be making a livable wage and be able to pay their bills. We know that our elders should be taken care of. And if they put money in something called Social Security, they should be able to get that money out of something called Social Security. We know that our kids should be able to play on playgrounds where it's safe and go to schools where textbooks have accurate facts in them and they are not stripped down to something that feels more digestible for white guilt. So there should not be an attack on critical race theory, which is really just an attack on Black history, which is American history. We know all of these things. These are our values. So whatever bucket, right? And I'm saying I know Black folks aren't monolithic, but I'd say more often than not, those are our values. We know that there is a place where some folks on the ballot will share some of those same values, and that's where we vote. If you don't feel represented in any of those, then you got to run somebody for office that does represent your values, right? But I think that what we do is we let the perfect be the enemy of the good. When I think about Black Democrats, I think of, like I said, Maxine Waters. I think of Benny Thompson. I think of Bobby Rush in Chicago and Robin Kelly in Chicago, Lauren Underwood in Illinois. I think of Congressman Conyers, who now, of course, retired and has passed, who introduced the very first reparations bill. I think of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., who, if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have changed the delegate process so that Barack Obama could run and become the Democratic nominee and become our president. When I think of Democrats, I think of Kamala Harris, who's working very, very hard to ensure our voting rights are protected. They're undoing some of the past wrongdoings of the cannabis practices and the ways in which the feds and state and local governments have overly criminalized that particular substance impacting us in various ways. I think of people who look like me and who think like me. And that doesn't mean that we always agree, but I don't always agree with my family either, right? What I know is that I have a safe space to be heard, and that if I disagree with them, there is a good chance that they may come to my side. What I'm not going to do is negotiate with terrorists. And I think we've seen on the other side what happened on January 6, 2021. We've seen what happened in the Supreme Court with the overturning of Roe versus Wade via the Dobbs decision. We see right now this Supreme Court that is overwhelmingly conservative, considering a court case from Harvard on affirmative action. Those are the things that have adverse outcomes for us. I will never support someone who does not have my best interest at heart, ever. I think that's a case, like a textbook case of an abusive relationship. So if you're a free thinker, but you end up bound because of who you choose to support, turns out you ain't that free.
I like it. No doubt. Well, look, we appreciate everything. Oh, go ahead.
So with that being said, I remember when Ice Cube came up with the plan that was written, I think by Dr. Claude Anderson, if I'm not mistaken. And he asked both sides to look at it. And one side, which I felt looked at it because they were trying to steer black people to, look what we doing for y'all. But the other side, he said they didn't look at it, or they said they wouldn't look at it till after the election. Have they reviewed that, or is that something that's just still in the air?
Yeah, I think here's what I'll say to you. I think it's so important for folks representing Black folks' interests to stay consistent and to stay engaged, whether the media attention is on them or not. I think that there are some very worthwhile conversations to be had about the contract with Black America. I would like to see Ice Cube engage in this advocacy all year round, and to maybe consider dedicating his life to it because it's that important. I would say that we have to ensure that we're all working together. So I hope that he'll engage around the Black census because he wants all Black folks to be counted and heard on the issues that are most important to us. How much stronger could the contract with Black America be if he's actually now using data? You all are in radio. You know data is king, or I should say
Right.
queen.
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 Right? Data is queen. And so when you can say, that we're trying to get 250,000 Black folks to take this Black census at blackcensus.org, because y'all done sidetracked me on this other really good topics. But I'll say this, how much stronger would it be if we could say 58% of Black folks say healthcare needs to improve in this country? 75% are still worried about the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. 38%, I'm making all these numbers up, I'm just giving this as an example. 38% say that police violence is the biggest issue to them. We want to be able to say that, not because we're just a number, but because we want to demonstrate where there is agreement with us on issues that are most important to us. Being able to say we're in agreement gives us power when it's time to consider that piece of legislation that Congress needs to pass. It gives us power when it's time for the state legislator to drop a potential bill or for a governor to sign a bill into law. Shout out to Wes Moore, who also became the first Black governor in Maryland. We have to be mindful of those things. And I think the only thing that I would ask is that we not be so blinded by the attention that we get from certain things that we forget about the overall goal. I believe, because I've been listening to Ice Cube, I'm a West Coast girl, I've been listening to him all my life, that he loves Black folks. I just want him to talk to some of the organizers who've been doing this work all their lives and work in coalition with them. We are stronger together. That's why we need this data, blackcensus.org.
blackcensus.org.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate your time. We do want to encourage everybody to go to blackcensus.org, sign up so we can be represented and be accounted for. And man, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, man.
And hopefully we get you in the studio when you come to Chicago. What's
Yeah,
up?
come to Chicago.
I definitely got to do it. I'll do it for you guys. I love this. This was fun. I got to come back and see y'all soon. Not just around election time or post elections, because our political power matters.
Come in the summertime when the weather warms up.
Yeah, that's right. Kid just said, don't get stuck in the snow.
We won't do the winter to you.
I'm just waiting for you to be a majority owner of the Seattle Supersonics when they bring them back.
Tell them. Yeah, I'm gonna get to see. Now that's something we can get some Black folks to sign a petition around. If we tied the Sonics coming back to Seattle to the Black Census, we'd definitely be winning. You struck a chord. That's a trauma, issue of trauma for all of us. You're absolutely right. We fighting for it, Leon.
I bet. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate you. We hope to see you soon. Okay.
Thank you,
Angela,
guys.
bye. Bye.
Bye.